Yo, 95% Rookie here. Today I'm trying something a bit different. I'm going to be going over my thoughts on Arma Reforger as of April 2024, because there's been a somewhat major update last month and a surge of players have been populating servers. I'll be talking over some footage I captured on public PvP servers with various mods, so it's more like a guided narration over gameplay than a full breakdown. Anyway, hope you enjoy. One of the main things I'll say that has been a big improvement since the last time I played, and if you remember that video when I last tried to play Reforger, it was kind of a mess, is the game seems a lot more stable now, both in terms of performance and just general crashing and bugs. I still did run into a few bugs here and there. Generally, they're not game-breaking, but occasionally they're really annoying, like my radio button stopped working so I couldn't change radio channels and things like that. But overall, like, I don't think I crashed once. I disconnected a couple times, but generally, like, I'm playing on these servers like this Vietnam server that you're seeing now. It's a 128 player server, and it, you know, for 128 players compared to before where we could barely get 30 players without constant disconnects, it's quite a lot improved, and I'm very impressed with it so far in terms of that.
Xbox, I'm coming back. My bad.
Alpha main to all stations. Enemy forces have captured a radio relay. Out.
Another thing I'll comment on is, like I said before, I've kind of praised Reforger on this before, but weapon handling and general, like, smoothness of the gameplay, I'd say, is such a big improvement over Arma 3. Like, it feels so good to use these weapons, like, to reload them, to use the functionality with them, like, the sights and everything. It's just so much more streamlined and smooth compared to Arma 3. There are some downsides, I think, compared to Arma 3. Like, I'd say it does feel better to shoot people, like, the way they ragdoll and stuff is generally much better. But I'd say there could still be improvement as far as better animations for when enemies die. And also, running on 128 player servers, you will notice some lag and, like, desync, kind of like, you know, sometimes it takes a while for your bullets to seem to have an impact, or sometimes they don't have an impact at all, just due to general networking things, which I'm sure can be improved, but, you know, when you're playing with 128 players, it's kind of bound to happen. So I'm not really complaining about that too much. Another thing I've complimented Arma Reforger on is when playing, like, lower tier conflicts, or I guess older conflicts. Like, I've played modern stuff. I've played you know, Cold War stuff a lot, like this Vietnam, obviously, but there's also these modern war stuff like Ukraine war, servers like that where you have night vision and stuff. But the night fighting I find it so interesting to be playing night fighting in, like, a lower technology level setting, because generally you're not going to have night vision. You have to rely on things like flares, things like flashlights, which, you know, there are definitely much more pros and cons versus night vision, where you know, if you have a flashlight on, obviously enemies can see you. You know, maybe you don't want them to see you, maybe you don't care so much, you just want to get a visual, or maybe you're not worried about enemies, but then, you know, there's always the chance a sniper could take you out. Things like that. That just makes night fighting so much more interesting. Maybe I wouldn't say better, but more interesting in a lower tier setting, lower technology setting, like in this Vietnam one, or in the default Arma Reforger setting, just Cold War. So that's one thing I will definitely praise it on, especially because when it comes to handling equipment in Reforger, it's so much more improved. How, like, when you pull out your flashlight, you can also put the flashlight on your vest, but then you can also, you know, you can carry it in your hand, which, you know, you can point it better. But if you just have it on your vest, you can be walking around with it. And that also, with the more modern stuff, you can have flashlights on your weapon and stuff, which, you know, you can in Arma 3 as well. But just I guess it's just the disparity between the two. Like, you know, you never really had low technology night fighting ability in Arma 3 beyond, you know, there were occasionally you'd have, like, a flashlight with holding a pistol in Sog Prairie Fire, things like that, but it just seems to be so much more thought out here because it's the base setting, and I'll really praise it on that. You know, a lot of the time in multiplayer games like this, there's going to be, by necessity, there's going to be a lot of downtime where you're either waiting for enemies to appear at an objective or just fucking around at base waiting for transport or whatever. And, you know, in times like that, it's nice to have like a bit of a community going on, like, you know, people bantering and everything like that. And usually that's generally a positive. Like, I've run into a lot of decent players, but I mean, the inherent problem with any multiplayer game, especially a team-focused multiplayer game, is just when you have shithead players who are a pain in the ass, you know, they're team killing, they're griefing, whatever, or just generally rude or whatever, that's just gonna hamper your experience a bit. So it's like, kind of like buyer beware, like, your experience with this game can be really great, like I've been having the past few days, or, you know, occasionally you'll just get, like, a shit team, or you know, just the bad things happen to happen, and you just don't have any fun. So it's like, it's important to take those things in stride and be like, okay, well, that's not like, you know, it's not representative of the overall package, but, you know, it can definitely sour you on like a session if something bad happens. Then you're like, this game kind of sucks. But I think overall you're gonna have a good time. But it's like, yeah, just have to keep in mind that occasionally you run into issues like that. Actually, on screen right here we have some smoke effects being showcased with like. The lighting and the smoke effects and everything in this game are, like, so good. Like, so the way you can see, like, people's... And this is on... I think this is on medium settings, by the way, and I'm sure it looks roughly the same on Xbox or whatever, where you can see, like, people's shadows being cast into the smoke. And, like, you know, obviously the frame rate kind of dips, but the graphically, Reforger's a really big step up over Arma 3. The lighting and everything is really improved. Also, just general model quality, animation quality, and everything is pretty good. Not like a huge fan of the movement in general in a Reforger. Maybe it feels a little too arcadey, but at least there's like the ability to vault and stuff way better than Arma 3. So there is that. You know, occasionally you'll just have really, really epic moments and like everything goes right, your team's coordinating or just the right set of circumstances, and you just have these great moments like showcasing here. This is like we've been trying to take this objective like the entire game, this airfield here, and the Viet Cong or PAVN have been holding it the entire time, and we mass for this big assault, and I have an MG and I start like suppressing fire and smoke gets thrown, and like it's just like such a great moment. Actually, oddly enough, there's some right there. I just showcased a little issue with the, like I said before, there's some UI bugs and stuff where like I select it, I selected my smoke grenade, but I guess maybe I didn't wait long enough to pull it out. But so I pull the pin and it's a frag. Just some finicky UI stuff. But anyways, it's just like all the tracers going everywhere, like the smoke, the suppressing fire, the explosives and everything, like the mass infantry charge. It's just like occasionally. It's not too often, like usually it's just regular gameplay, but sometimes you'll have these like grand experiences, and it's very like, because it kind of reminds me of like Squad or Battlefield, where, you know, like it's usually pretty good gameplay, but occasionally you get that like over the top, like, yeah, this was like a reason why I bought the game kind of thing. This was one of those that I captured in this few hours of gameplay. Yeah, the tracers and everything, like, yeah, looks pretty fucking epic. I'll just let it play for a bit, and then I'll talk about the next thing. Probably switch over to the footage from when I was playing on the modern Ukraine server. All right, switching over to this. This was I think it's run by the same guys. I forget what the exact server name is, but they run a lot of Arma 3 or Arma Reforger servers for conflict and stuff with mods and everything. This is switching over to, I think it's called Ukraine Modern Conflict, and it's kind of like it's Ukraine, but it's mostly like U.S. vehicles. Like I think RHS is used, like the Reforger RHS, where we get a lot of American equipment versus Russian equipment essentially. And you're supposed to be playing as Ukrainians, but to me, it seems a bit more like U.S. forces. At least that's how most people run it. Like, I don't think you might get AKs. I'm not sure. Anyways, it's less Ukraine versus Russia and more like U.S. forces versus Russia, which is fine. But I mean, I would prefer a more like realistic setting personally. Although the war in Ukraine is an awful thing, but I do think it's interesting to play an ongoing conflict. I think, but anyways, that aside, yeah, you're playing. It's like night and day difference between like you're playing low technology Vietnam era, like 30, 40, 50 years before, and now you're playing cutting edge modern technology, night vision, lasers. I think there's Cobras, there's tanks. It's a lot more like fast moving, a lot more high speed, I guess, in terms of you have like you can get your Gucci guns. Like I'm for this session, I'm rocking like an M4A1 with a grenade launcher, suppressor, with a Spectre optic and laser and flashlight, and so like all kitted out Gucci gear with like Cry outfit with armor vests and stuff. And another thing is, so by default in Reforged, the arsenal is kind of crap. It's basically just like, if you remember in Arma 3, when you just open a crate, dragging stuff into your inventory, it's basically that. Like, it's really clunky, especially because, like I said, UI issues. It's annoying to like get rid of equipment sometimes. Sometimes you basically only have the option of throwing it on the ground because it glitches out and doesn't go into the arsenal when you right click on it or drag it or whatever. Just general annoying UI stuff. Luckily, it seems like most modded servers, at least, are running what's called like Bacon Arsenal or Bacon's Loadout or something like that. And it's like it's much more similar to like the Arma 3 Arsenal, like the Ace Arsenal or whatever, where you can go through, you can select your vest or whatever, like what's in your vest. Generally, it works pretty okay, although I have noticed like it doesn't seem to jive with all the mods in the game. Like, some mods do things slightly different, like how attachments work and everything. So sometimes you have to manually attach stuff through like just the inventory versus just like using the arsenal. So, but it's still much improved using that Bacon Arsenal. And it's not like the end of the world using the vanilla like inventory system. The UI is generally pretty well understood. I feel like it could be improved, but UI is generally pretty good. So like, and the best thing by far, though, like UI aside, annoying things aside, the best thing by far in Reforger is like the equipment system, the gear you have, everything is so modular. Like, it's so great compared to Arma 3. Arma 3, it's like you get a helmet on, that's your helmet. In Reforger, it's like modders can attach all kinds of stuff to your helmet. Like, you can have patches, you can have hearing protection on or off. You can have like a strobe attached directly to your helmet, and then you can have an option to turn on that strobe, kind of like the Ace Arsenal or whatever. It's just like it's very modular and very powerful. I'm excited to see like what modders can do. Like, just thinking like sci-fi mods, things like that in the future in Arma 4 or even Reforger. Just like the amount of stuff that seems you can do with the equipment system is just like super impressive. Almost like Ground Branch-esque in terms of the customization on weapons, as far as like you can put grips, you can put lights on either side of your gun, you can put like a laser on the top and stuff. You can put stuff in various positions on the gun, and it'll affect gameplay. I mean, even another great thing is, so on some guns that I've noticed with like this M4A1 that I'm using, you can actually select individually the upper, the lower, the handguard, the grip, the stock. Like, it seems like it's not, maybe not in by default as far as, the vanilla Arma Reforger equipment, but modders have certainly been able to do a lot with it, it's very impressive. But yeah, right now, if you're watching the gameplay, so basically I'm just, we inserted via helicopter, and we're kind of moving from objective to objective. I kind of split off from the group at one point, and headed north of the objective and was kind of stalking in the woods. I took out a couple of enemies and was kind of hoping that a helicopter would land so I could hit it with my grenade launcher. But yeah, I got in a few intense firefights. That was pretty fun. Probably cut around since there was a lot of dead air. But yeah.
There's a repair station off of Main. Is that some sort of friendly armor at Bravo? Friendly vibrant in the air.
As you can see here, when the sun starts to rise and like you get some of those environmental visuals, like the light going on the trees and everything, like this game does look really good at times. Arma 3 had its moments in terms of, you know, despite the like kind of dated graphics, it does look really good at times, but Reforger is just like a big step up visually. Yeah, and I really enjoy how they have like a photo mode built into the game, and it works in multiplayer. Basically, it just means you can't like go too far away from your character, but you can pose like screenshots with your character, and like you know, if you coordinate with players, I'm sure you could set up some little photo ops and stuff. Which is, I just think that's like an interesting feature to have a photo mode in a multiplayer game.
Where's the BMPs at? Oh, I'm down. What the fuck? Hello? I need some sort of straight line. I don't know which one. Like around where? I don't know.
There were a few things I could have wrapped up a bit, or added a bit more to the video, but I think it's got a good length now. Just kind of gives you an idea that, yeah, overall, I'm pretty impressed with Arma Reforger in its current state. Definitely compared to last time where I was very critical of the game. You know, the past few weeks, I've had a decent amount of playtime, and I feel like there's been quite a lot added to the game through mods and just general performance. Like the performance and bug fixes, I think, are the big thing, right? It was just so frustrating that I was like constantly crashing and disconnecting. Haven't had nearly as many issues this time around. So yeah, I think overall, I'd say I don't know if the game is worth it. I mean, you'll have to make that decision for yourself. But I'd say it's in a much better state. Much better state than it was at launch and like in the following years. Like in the past few months, I assume, it's really come into its own with mods and everything, and it shows the player count has been I think it's been its highest since launch. Launch wasn't even that high, but right now, like I think we're at peak like 3,000 players or something like that. You know, the average is definitely the highest since launch. So players are coming back to the game, and yeah, overall, I'd say I'm pretty happy with it so far, and I hope Bohemia Interactive continues, and I hope Arma 4, if it happens, is just as good and builds on what Reforger has. So, anyways, yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that if you feel like it, and yeah.